up tonight, rising racial tensions. Amid immigration protests, an increase in assaults, attacks and racial abuse. Black and ethnic minority trade unionists are gathering for a national conference seeking to combat the rise of the far right.
There's more paraphernalia, let's say. Even in the office, there's been a far-right newspaper just left out there. Accidentally or not, we don't really know, but it's just scary.
And as the effects of new rules to clamp down on legal immigration take hold, is your curry under threat? Indian restaurants warn of a staffing shortage which could force some out of business.
You will see many Indian restaurants are disappear, and the new chefs, new skilled worker won't come through because of the new rules. They are not coming to the country.
Also making the headlines, Scotland's first centre for testing recreational drugs gets the go-ahead, allowing users to check if the substance they're taking is safe. And in sport, just what we need. Rangers caretaker boss backs Kevin Muscat to be a success at Ibrox. I'm Emma Cameron. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. There's been an increase in the number of assaults, attacks and racist abuse towards black and minority workers in Scotland. One of the country's largest trade unions has told STV News workers are scared and seeing a rise in so-called far-right material in their workplaces. It's all amid heightened racial tensions and months of anti-immigration protests throughout the UK, with Falkirk and Aberdeen at the centre of the debate here. The revelation comes on the eve of a national conference in Glasgow seeking to combat the increase of racially motivated abuse in the workplace. Vanessa Taff reports.
Cheryl moved from England to Scotland 11 years ago. It's her home, but recently she's noticed a change in societal and workplace attitudes.
Now it's just got to the point where it's, there's more paraphernalia, let's say. Even in the office, there's been a far-right newspaper just left out there. Accidentally or not, we don't really know, but it's just scary. And I think I listen to the people that came before me. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and I feel like we're regressing back to that. And I listen to the people that are, older than me that have been through it, and they are equally scared.
It's a fear felt by many others, like Raza. He's lived in Glasgow for decades and has spent most of that time trying to tackle racism and racist abuse.
I came in this country probably 35, 36 years ago. I've given more to this community than in country where I came from. So that shows the contribution made by people. Austerity has been fueling hatred, but instead of people going and marching against those who are failing us, rather than marching against those who are powerless.
Recent anti-immigration protests have been sweeping the country. Falkirk has been the focus of the policy debate in the Central Belt. Locals are angry that asylum seekers are being housed in a hotel there. But other demonstrations have taken place in Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh. This weekend, a record number of people are expected to attend a conference in Glasgow. It's in response to racist rhetoric and so-called far-right activity.
There are people using language and behaviours in workplaces that would have been completely unacceptable just a year ago. What goes on online is now happening in our streets, and it's now happening in our workplaces. There's increasing tensions, and there's quite a lot of increase in hate crime. And that actually takes a really visible toll on black workers. It's not just about name calling, as offensive as that is, but we've seen an increase in assaults.
At home, Cheryl tries not to let racist hatred get her down. But it's not always as playful or easy to throw off as it can be when it happens in the workplace. Vanessa Taff, STV News.
Now, new rules to clamp down on legal immigration have been branded a disaster, destroying hospitality and social care. That's according to those working in both sectors. The Home Office introduced a wide package of measures back in July, including tightening access to skilled worker visas and a complete ban on the recruitment of overseas care staff. Our political reporter Laura Alderman has more.
For many of us, nothing beats the taste of an authentic Indian curry. But hospitality leaders are now warning the cuisine is under threat. Mohammed owns this fine dining restaurant in Edinburgh and says changes to immigration and visa sponsorship rules in July now mean those with the skills and expertise necessary to create these dishes are in critically short supply.
These roles are highly specialized roles. You can't really replace a tandoor chef or curry master overnight. Most of the people, most of the chefs are from abroad. So if we can't get access to the chefs we need, we can't really run the industry. You will see many Indian restaurants are disappear.
And when you have looked domestically, locally for staff, what's it been like? What challenges have you faced?
Finding local experienced people is almost impossible. And also they changed the salary threshold, which is not reflect to the reality of small businesses. So it's a disaster for us.
In a bid to slash net migration by 100,000 people per year, the changes included raising the threshold and salary requirements for the skilled worker visa and scrapping a scheme to allow the recruitment of health and social care workers from overseas. For those workers already here like Suni, the changes have created a lot of anxiety and unknowns. She's had to leave her young family behind at home in India while she works towards becoming a nurse at this care home in Salin near Dunfermline.
When I got the COS, the rules already changed, the immigration rules, so I am alone here now. Without family, we cannot survive and we will not be, sometimes it's physically and emotionally, it's disturbing us.
With around a quarter of their staff coming from overseas, the Home's director says cutting off international recruitment is yet another blow for the struggling sector.
I don't see how social care would work if all of our international staff suddenly were not with us. We do advertise locally and invite people to interview, and other providers will say as well that often people just don't come. And that led us to looking more widely to our international friends. We want them to feel part of the workforce and part of the community that we are, and these changes in rules have taken a step back and made it feel like they're less welcome. And I'm not sure whether that might put people off staying, which would reduce our workforce even further, and that is a real worry.
The Scottish Government is now looking to other parts of the UK to fill gaps in staffing.
We've put up £500,000 to help relocate people from other parts of the UK that have a visa to be here but haven't got employment, and we'll look to use that to support the relocation so that we can support people to have those jobs here in Scotland where we absolutely need those migrant social care workers.
Is that nice?
Across both sectors, the changes have led to rising costs and dwindling recruitment. In short, they fear a recipe for disaster. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
Glasgow City Council have been granted permission by the UK Government to run specialist recreational drug testing facilities. Centres will also operate in Dundee, whilst applications are progressing for sites in Edinburgh and Aberdeen. The licences will allow people who are frequent or dependent drug users to provide a small amount of what they're planning to take to be checked for any contamination. Well, our reporter Ollie Dickinson has more and joins me now. So Ollie, just how big a step is this?
It's a really significant step because for a number of years, local authorities in Scotland have wanted to have these facilities, but because of where drug policy in the law lies, they've had to apply to the Home Office effectively for permission. A similar service already runs in Bristol. Their users can leave a small amount of what they're planning to take, which is then tested, and the results, along with specialist help, is then passed on to those who submitted the samples. We expect the service here in Scotland to run pretty much that way.
So what exactly are they checking for?
Two main things. One is contamination. What have those drugs been cut with, and could that be additionally harmful? Secondly, are the drugs what you believe them to be, or have they had something maybe like nitazines or fentanyl put in there? And are they much stronger than you expect them to be, or even something totally different? Now, these tests take place, and you don't always get the immediate information. Some of that may have to be sent off to somewhere like the University of Dundee, one of those other sites we've heard, but exactly what happens where is all being smoothed over at the moment. And
we know that one licence is going to be in Glasgow. Where exactly is it going to be based, and when will it get up and running?
This service will be based in the east end of Glasgow, around that Hunter Street area where the Thistle Safer Drug Consumption Room is currently based. This testing, though, will require specialist equipment. We understand that is currently being purchased, and the aim is to have that up and running by early next year. As we said at the beginning of the chat, though, the major hurdle was getting approval from the Home Office, and that, of course, has now been granted.
Great. Ollie, many thanks for that. Now, there are calls for a GP to be suspended for comments he posted online about a woman who was raped by his son. Dr. Andrew McFarlane was charged with communications offences in August after he made the comments. Daniel McFarlane was sentenced to 5 years in jail in 2022 after being found guilty of raping Ellie Wilson. Rape Crisis Scotland has written to the General Medical Council saying it's concerned about the lack of seriousness on the matter. The GMC says a full investigation is underway alongside criminal proceedings against Dr. McFarlane. Tanker drivers based at Grangemouth have taken to the picket line in a dispute over pay with employers Turners Limited. Unite, the unions, say the strike is likely to affect fuel for airlines operating at Glasgow and Edinburgh airports. The union claim Turners refused to improve their 1% pay offer. Turners say they've tried to resolve the dispute and said it was extremely disappointing. They say they've put plans in place so no airport is impacted.
For example, in Edinburgh Airport, our members put in between 300 and 400,000 litres a day. So that will have a significant impact on Edinburgh Airport, for example, and ultimately on major airlines. We don't want to be here today, but the company was not going to give us an acceptable offer. 1% doesn't cut the mustard, and therefore we have no alternative but to take industrial action.
The launch of new mobile phones saw Scotland's shops record their best sales since April. The Scottish Retail Consortium found total sales increase by 1.3% from September last year, while non-food sales were up by 1.4%. Experts say the increase was driven by household goods and the release of Apple's new iPhone and Samsung's Galaxy phone. The annual celebration of all things Gaelic is drawing to a close this weekend in Lochaber. The Royal National Mod, which celebrates the language and its culture, has seen more than 10,000 visitors descend on Fort William over the last 9 days. It's hoped the festival will have generated millions of pounds for the local economy. Now, the Scottish Greens say they can beat Labour in next year's Holyrood elections. The party's new co-leaders Ross Greer and Gillian Mackay have been speaking ahead of their conference in Edinburgh. They believe they can get a record number of MSPs elected in May and from all parts of Scotland. Here's more from our senior reporter, Gordon Cray.
Both in their 30s, the co-leaders of the Scottish Greens represent a new generation at the helm. And visiting the Palestine Museum in Edinburgh on the eve of their conference, they're aiming high.
The way the polls are going at the moment, we're increasingly confident that we will be able to beat the Labour Party in Scotland. The Scottish Greens will become the main force for progressive policies, for a progressive vision of our society, a fairer and a greener Scotland.
With Reform riding high in the polls too, the leader of the Greens in England and Wales, Zach Polanski, is taking a populist left approach to fight the populist right, punchier and with a strong social media game.
And I would like to certainly do that up here to counter that narrative from Reform that we have to be insular and inward looking. We can be a hopeful outward looking country, hopefully an independent Scotland before too long, and that's where we need to show people what that means and what our policies mean for them, and that's what I want to do going forward.
We're honest, we're not trying to manipulate things in the way that you see, particularly on the right, the more hateful end of the political spectrum. We're just putting forward a straightforward and an honest message, and we're not afraid to call out those who are really at fault. The reason that people are struggling right now is because of the greed of the people at the top.
They promise a focus on the climate emergency, arguing net zero can ultimately save people money. And after the spell as a junior partner in government, they're open to a return if there's an opportunity to deliver green policies. Gordon Cray, STV News, Edinburgh.
Police are investigating following a major fire at a church in Glasgow. Emergency services were called to Christ Apostolic Church on Govan Road in the early hours of this morning. Lawrence Street and Craigie Hall Place remain closed due to the unsafe building.
The community and the church are very devastated at the moment. The main thing is this is a place of worship. We consider it a place of refuge, so having that no more has, been shocking to everybody. The church, the community, even people passing in the morning, they were just shocked that this happened.
Over 40 employers have been fined over £400,000 for failing to pay their workers national minimum wage. More than 700 workers at businesses, including Crieff Hydro and several Glasgow nurseries, have been repaid around £220,000 in total. A man has been allegedly stabbed after an incident in Glasgow. A 52-year-old man was injured in Hawthorne Street in the Springburn area of the city late last night. He was taken to hospital with serious injuries. A 55-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the alleged attack. A man who lost his son suddenly and unexpectedly is calling for more awareness of a serious threat to the lives of people with epilepsy. Sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, or SUDEP, has no specific reason for occurring, but it's the leading cause of mortality in people with chronic, uncontrolled epilepsy. Yet experts say more than half of those living with the condition aren't aware of it. Padushi Tavari now reports.
I could hear myself saying, "I've just found my son dead in his bed." And then another little voice in my head was saying, "Is that true? Did that really just happen?" And it was really just a shock reaction.
John Robinson lost his son 3 months ago. 31-year-old Alex had epilepsy. He died suddenly and unexpectedly with no cause of death found during a post-mortem. It's a massive risk that people with epilepsy face, and one that Army veteran John wishes he'd been more aware of.
My primary thought of any risk to his life would be if he was alone and fitted whilst near water, or if he was at a height.
Sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, or SUDEP, can affect around 2 people per week in Scotland. While still not fully understood, risk factors include poorly controlled seizures, not taking medication and drinking alcohol. One charity is concerned that most people with epilepsy are never warned about it.
For a long, long time, we've been shouting quite loud about it. I would suggest that not enough people are listening. We know what needs to be done. The question is, will Scotland now do that?
Historically, I think that unfortunately there's been a hesitancy from physicians and doctors who've been giving the diagnosis to not always broach the subject, probably because there's been so much to take on board and absorb by the patient.
Academic research is ongoing, but many people living with epilepsy day to day find themselves left without answers.
There is scope here to introduce reasonable measures if we had a multidisciplinary approach between the clinicians on the one side, Epilepsy Scotland, and other institutions like schools.
While John can't bring back his son, he hopes sharing his story might help save someone else's. Padushi Tavari, STV News.
Well, Raman's here with all the sport this Friday, and the Premiership's back.
Absolutely, Emma. After the international break, the top flight returns tomorrow. Today we've been speaking to the Hibs head coach, we've been speaking to the Celtic manager, but first to the Rangers interim head coach.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Stephen Smith says Kevin Muscat is the type of character Rangers need right now. Muscat is set to be appointed the club's new head coach. In the interim, Smith, who is Rangers under-19s coach, is tasked with lifting the team after their disastrous start to the season, which has resulted in Russell Martin being sacked. Here's Ronnie Chatters.
Stepping up when his club needs him. Stevie Smith has had 2 spells at Rangers as a player, but now he's calling the shots as temporary boss. As he prepares for the visit of Dundee United tomorrow, almost 2 weeks in from Russell Martin's departure, Smith admits he's surprised to still be in the Ibrox hot seat.
I thought I would probably take training for the first 2 days, and then the players had a few days off, and I thought that would probably be my job done. But the closer you get to the next week beginning, and then you know you've got international players returning, and there's different aspects to it, you start to get that feel that there's a potential that it could happen. But in my head I was always prepared, and as I say, the work I've done previously has helped me in this moment.
Waiting in the wings is Kevin Muscat. The Shanghai Port manager seen here today during their match in China is Ibrox bound. Stevie Smith was in the academy when Muscat was a player at Rangers more than 20 years ago. So does he think the Australian has the character to be a success at Ibrox?
Probably. It's an interesting question. There's obviously, in the past 4 or 5 years, we've had different types of managers. There is no guarantee of success anywhere, and it's really difficult to guarantee success when you're at a club that the expectation is to win all the time. That's never going to happen. But we've experienced different managers, whether it be managers that have played here, managers that have been deemed head coach types that are more tactical. So we've had every type of manager, but the priority is always to win.
And today, for the first time, the Rangers dressing room addressed Russell Martin's sacking.
How much do you guys take responsibility for where the club are at the moment?
Yeah, the players have got to take responsibility. We're the ones that take the pitch. Whatever manager is here, whatever manager is not here, the lads have got to take responsibility, that's for sure, because there's games where we weren't good enough.
Roddy Charters, STV Sport.
Well, Brendan Rodgers says Celtic will be ready for the challenge Kevin Muscat's Rangers may pose should the Australian land the top job at Ibrox. And at his media conference today, Rodgers also called for synergy at the club that after fans group ramped up their protests against the board. During his 2 spells at Celtic spanning over 5 years, Brendan Rodgers has won every domestic trophy bar 2. No matter who was in the dugout on the other side of Glasgow, Rodgers and Celtic have dominated Scottish football. The Parkhead boss will soon face the challenge of a Rangers side managed by Kevin Muscat. Bring it on, says Rodgers.
Every team that changes manager, you always, you accept and take on the challenge of new ideas and that freshness that they may bring. I don't know Kevin that well, but I came across him a few times when I was at Liverpool. He's done a really good job in the teams that he's been at in Asia, and if he's to be the new manager coming in, then it's another new challenge, and as I said, for us, we'll be ready for it.
As Rodgers prepares for Celtic's trip to Dundee on Sunday, off the pitch, the divide between the club's supporters and the board is deepening. The Celtic Fans Collective, an umbrella group consisting of supporters clubs, fan media and other fans groups, have launched a Not Another Penny campaign, urging fans not to buy club merchandise, not to purchase food and drinks at Celtic Park, and not to attend stadium tours, bars, restaurants or club events.
The Celtic supporters are at the heart of this club. That is what Celtic is synonymous with, and hopefully going forward we can find that balance that allows that great support to spill onto the field, and obviously we have that harmony on the throughout the club.
Daizan Maeda will miss the trip to Dundee due to injury, but Alistair Johnson could return to the squad after almost 2 months out. And Dundee against Celtic is a 12 o'clock kick-off on Sunday. Well, we could be in for a cracker at Rugby Park tomorrow, where league leaders Hearts take on third place Kilmarnock. Shuck Kerrywell's side are on a very good run, which has seen them move up the table. They take on a Hearts team who are unbeaten in 7 Premiership games.
They are league leaders and they've started the season so well. We want to test ourselves against teams that are playing well and doing well. Hence why we took a game in Tuesday there as well. It was a brilliant experience for the players. And then I think, we're obviously doing no too bad ourselves, so we want to try and maintain that.
Any team going away to Rugby Park is always traditionally a tough fixture, and we see it that way, and particularly the form they're in. So, looking forward to the game, hoping we can just pick up where we left off in terms of strong performances, and hopefully the performance is enough to win, but we understand how difficult that's going to be.
To the other side of the capital, and David Gray admits Hibs need to be better in both boxes to start climbing the Premiership table, but believes they can turn results quickly. The last-minute derby defeat to Hearts was Hibs' first loss in the league this season. However, they haven't won a Premiership match since the start of August.
I'd be a lot more concerned had we not been playing particularly well. Now, I don't think the last 2 performances have been our best. I don't think the game's been great, especially the derby game speaks for itself. But can't come too far away from what the group is doing. The opportunities we're creating and it speaks for itself. We need to be better in both boxes in these key areas at key times, but we are doing a lot right. And if we keep getting ourselves into these positions, I do believe it will turn quickly.
We spoke a lot about how we can do better, especially a lot of people are talking about we conceding late goals. So we were talking about that, how we can change that.
Well, Hibs are at home to Livingston tomorrow. There are all of the Premiership games this weekend. Sixth place Motherwell host Falkirk, and St Mirren, who lost their last match, are aiming to bounce back against Aberdeen in Paisley.
And we've came back on Thursday and trained really hard, trained really well. Got back to doing what we do, because we didn't feel we were a shadow of ourselves on the game against Kilmarnock. So we reminded everybody what we're very good at, the reason that we've done well, and we've got back to that this week. The training's been really good.
Your window to sport. CR Smith sponsors STV Sport.
And that, folks, is all of your sport from me tonight. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again next week. Emma.
Thanks for that, Rahman. Well, Sean, I think you're here with news that it's about to turn chilly.
Yes, a bit. I'm a bit excited about this, although I'm not so excited that my boiler started playing up this morning, typical this time of year. But I have been keeping an eye on the weather models recently, and there's now a bit more agreement to this little drop here. Now, that is about this time next week. We could be looking at daytime highs about 7 or 8 degrees Celsius, so quite a cool down from where we are at the moment, about 12 to 14 degrees. So it does look as if it will turn chillier, and next weekend we could see our first widespread frost even in the towns and cities. So witches, if you're planning ahead, it looks as if it could be a bit of a nippy Halloween for the cats. You can find out more about this upcoming cold spell online. Let's look at the forecast.
Wet by the coast, with a high chance of sun and splashing. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, I won't be talking about anticyclonic gloom next week because we'll have lost the anticyclone. Bye-bye, that's that high pressure there, anticyclone. So the opposite of that, the cyclone, the low pressure system, that's what's going to be dominating the weather next week and bringing us in some pretty wet and windy weather on Sunday. If you've got plans for Sunday, prepare yourselves for a little bit of a soaking. But at least tonight, it's still quiet out there. We've still got the high pressure around, although the breeze picking up just a wee bit. It's a southerly breeze, which does mean we've got the southern uplands breaking up that cloud across parts of Lanarkshire and also across Fife, the Pentlands, the Lammermuirs breaking up the cloud here as well, and also as we head into the Highlands. That does mean where we've got the cloud breaks again, it's Dumfries and Galway, parts of Lanarkshire, your temperatures down to lows of 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, so quite a chill in some spots where we've got those clearer spells, but still milder in the west where we've got more of a breeze. You can see those little lines coming up. That's that breeze picking up through the night into tomorrow around the west coast, and a bit more cloud. Now tomorrow, mostly cloudy again across western parts. We could get some showers maybe across Lights of Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galway, maybe Argyll and Bute seeing a few. Most of us though, it still stays dry. The best of the brighter weather, Falkirk, Clackmannanshire, and also across the Lothians, highs up to 14, 15 degrees Celsius. Then we see that big change coming through on Sunday. Very windy to start the day, heavy rain through the afternoon. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, I'll be back at 7 o'clock with What's on Scotland, where spooky season is officially underway. Laura has been chatting to the stars of Guillermo del Toro's new movie, Frankenstein, which was filmed here in Scotland.
Obviously, the creature is made up of different body parts of various people. If you had to pick one body part or attribute from each other to make the perfect creature, what would it be?
I'd take his...
Yes.
What would you take? I'd take his vitality. I'd take his hairline. I'd take his chest. I would take his ability to stay out as late as you can and still be available. Yes. I'd take his charisma. How many can I have?
You can have as many.
Can I just be him?
You can just be him.
Not jealous of that one at all. Well, the full interview and much more from the world of entertainment coming up on What's on Scotland at 7. But that's all for now from all of us here. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a lovely weekend. Good night.